So my first year of college is just about finished. I just had my finals like 2 days ago. Just gave my final project presentation for one of my classes today. All that good stuff. And I move out of my dorm in about 2 days. Actually, more like a day and a half because I'm recording this at like almost 3 a.m. And it's been an interesting year. A lot of ups and downs, which sounds cliche, but that's kind of how things tend to go. I made a lot of really cool new friends, made some friends that, things didn't work out. And if you saw one of my other videos, I think it's like probably my second video I've ever put up on this channel, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Realized how competitive trying to find a job is. And yeah, I learned to learn a lot. Both soft skills, hard skills, technical skills, all of those things. Now the reason I'm making this video today is kind of tangentially related to that. It's definitely school related because the case study, I guess you could say, that I'm using is school. But my plan is to kind of make it so that it's extendable outside of just academics. Now, I've always been someone who has kind of slacked off in school. Even in high school, I never did my homework like on time. I always put it off to the end. I always got distracted. And part of the reason for that, which I didn't realize at the time, is because I'm pretty sure at least, this is one of the reasons why I slacked off, was because I have ADHD that wasn't diagnosed until just a few months ago. And because of that, I have a tendency to get very distracted very, very easily when things are not urgent. And I got my diagnosis a few months ago. I've been actively working on it, actively working on suppressing the symptoms, and it's been going well. But anyways, back to the topic at hand, which is, I guess the best way to put it would be when you try so hard but you don't succeed. Which I'm pretty sure there's like a meme or song or like pretty old meme about that about this. But I don't think I really understood it until like 2 days ago. Now I talked about how I always used to slack off in school. I never really paid attention to my grades or did my homework on time. That doesn't mean I was a bad student. I was still a good student. I graduated with it was pretty good GPA. Got into a very good university. So for all intents and purposes, I think the point that I'm trying to make is, for a large part of my life, for better or for worse, I did not have to try super hard to get results. But college is kind of a different ballgame than high school, in the sense that there is no one actively there to keep you accountable. So if you're like me and you slack off very easily, you're kind of cooked. In high school, every single time you go to a class, you have to go to all of the classes in one day unless you use like an absence. And for my high school, we were only allowed 9 absences per semester. So you always have to show up, you have to actually learn the content, you need to make sure that you're actually locked in, all that stuff in college. Oh, not in college, in high school. And that's not necessarily the case in college, and the reason for this is because for most colleges, for most college classes, lecture is not required. Usually it has to do with like the class sizes being so big that they don't really give a shit if you don't pull up, because they honestly just don't have the time to worry about you when they're worrying about like 200 other kids, especially in freshman year. your first year of college, where everyone is still kind of taking the same intro classes, and where I'm going, there's like a core set of classes that every single freshman has to take. So you end up with pretty big classes. And this means people don't show up to class. A lot of people don't show up to class. I was one of those people. I was pretty notorious along my friend group for not pulling up to classes where attendance wasn't required. And yeah, that was not good in terms of like my grades and actually learning the material. I was not doing a good job of that, at least for the first semester. And then second semester, I remember I was like, I'm gonna lock in hard this semester. You know, I'm taking more classes this semester. My workload's gonna be a lot bigger. I need to lock in, otherwise I'm not gonna, succeed. And for most of the second semester, okay, well, you know what? Second semester was also tumultuous, but at least for part of the second semester, things were going pretty well. Like, I could see myself improving. I actually started going to class, although there were some classes where I kind of fucked myself because I kept skipping them. And, like, my academic improvement, I could see academic improvement. And then now, fast forward to about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks out before my finals, I remember I had 2 classes that I had to, like, lock in pretty hard for. And I remember I told my parents, like, oh, I've set myself a super rigid schedule. Like, it was kind of psychotic, but, like, I was planning to go to bed every day at 10 and then waking up at 4 a.m. so I could study and review. And for the first maybe a week, it went pretty well. Like, I was actually waking up super early. Never started working any later than, like, 5 a.m. Never, like, did compromise. Well, compromise on things that were, like, non-academic. So, like, my social life, I compromised pretty hard on that. Everything. And it was going pretty well. Even throughout the second week, like, I was still locked, still working on stuff. And then on the third week, I could kind of feel a toll being taken on me, both, like, physically and mentally. And I think I brush it off as just being tired because, I've been working for the, first 2 weeks. I keep saying, I need to stop doing that. I kept working, grinding throughout the first 2 weeks. So I thought to myself, fuck it. I thought to myself, this is very normal to feel these things. I just need to push through it. I did not push through it, at least not well. I started kind of getting back into my old bad habits. There were days where I would wake up, stay in bed for a good portion of the day, do nothing, and then at night hop onto video games for like 5 hours and play throughout the night when I should have been sleeping. And then this kind of created a cycle. And at some point, I think I just... I don't even know, man. It was just not good. Although near the end, I did kind of realize that, hey, I'm not doing myself any favors. Like, I need to do well in these final exams. So I locked back in for the last 2-3 days. And it wasn't like I was super compromising. Like, I'm not someone who will... Well, actually, I am someone who will kind of wait until the last minute. But I'm not someone who will, let's say, 5 hours out from a test, I'll be doing random shit instead of cramming. Like, I'm not... I do still have a sense of urgency occasionally. And overall, like, if you think about it, 3 weeks, and 2.5 of those I was locked in, and only for the last whatever few days I wasn't, like, that should have been perfectly fine. Like, I got my hours in. I was studying every single day for probably minimum like 10 hours, sometimes up to 16, because I'd break it up into 4-hour chunks. And then I walk into my first exam, and I remember the first 2/3 of it were honestly a breeze. Like, I got through it. There was nothing that I didn't know how to do. This was math, linear algebra. And then the final third of it, I got super tripped up for the conceptual part. I did get very tripped up because part of it was like, I don't know if my understanding was bad or I just didn't perform well, because there were questions going back that were so easy that I really should have been able to answer them with no problem. Like, these were basic conceptual questions. And I was getting tripped up on them. And I think that should have been a warning sign, because I get through math, there's a few questions at the end that trip me up, although I think, pretty sure they tripped everyone up from what I was hearing. Anyways, then the next day I had physics, E&M, electricity and magnetism, which is a pretty notoriously difficult class, especially if you're not very strong with physics, because it's very abstract. Anyways, my physics final was about 10 hours after my linear algebra final. And in 10 hours, as in my linear algebra final was in the late evening into the night, and then my physics final was early the next morning, which is not the best setup to have, but it is what it is. You play with the cards that you're dealt with. And I remember I did not sleep very well. I don't know why. Maybe I was nervous, whatever. And then I walk into that physics final, and oh my god, it's like all the information I've learned throughout just the entire semester, honestly, has suddenly left my brain. I'm staring at these questions. Some of them are very easy. Like, if you have conductor with a cavity in it, and the cavity has a charge, what is the charge on the conductor? Basic shit like that, and I had no clue where to even start. And this wasn't even like the worst part of it. Like, I was forgetting basic relationships. Like, what's the relationship between like electric field and what is it? Force and charge. That, like, what? Like, this is stuff we learned on fucking day one that all of a sudden information has just left my brain. And I remember throughout the exam, it felt as if I was so close to getting the right answer. Like, it's like when the word is on the tip of your tongue, but this time the thoughts were on my tip, the tip of my brain. Yeah, and I just couldn't do it. It just was not coming to me. So safe to say, physics was a disaster. And usually for tests, like, if I do bad on a test and I know I didn't put the work in, then I can kind of like get that, like it's 100% on me. But like, man, these past 3 weeks, I've probably put in minimum like 150 hours of studying per subject, and I probably got the same result as someone who studied for who did like a quick review of the content and didn't do anything else. Like, me and that person probably got the same score, and I don't know, it's kind of heartbreaking, honestly. I don't really even have like a lesson to be learned here, aside from maybe like take care of your health, because I don't know, I remember I came back from my exam, it was noon, I took a nap for like 6 hours because I was so tired, and I wake up and it feels like my cognitive ability has like quadrupled. And now I don't know, I'm just like, on the one hand, I don't think I can regret anything. I don't regret studying. I don't regret putting in the work. I'm just disappointed that I didn't get the results that should correlate with how much work I put in. And I think the worst part of that is that ultimately, even though I put in all the work, the results are still on me, because I think that the reason why I performed so badly was just because I hadn't been properly taking care of my health. I told myself that I would study to the point where I could be half dead and still take the exam and do well on it, but instead I ended up being fully dead, which is, yeah. So what is the lesson to be learned here? I don't know if there really is one. I think if I had to come up with one, I would say prepare in all of the unseen ways as well as the seen ways. And what I mean by this is you need to be prepared on every front, even the ones that don't feel obvious. You can't just review for the exam and make sure your knowledge is good. You also have to take care of your health. You need to take care of the intangibles, if that makes sense. And it's definitely a lesson that I'm going to carry into the next semester. Next semester is going to be my first semester as a sophomore. It will be my last semester before I need to start doing finance recruiting. Yay! So it's definitely going to be tough, but I don't know, as long as I didn't tank this semester too badly, which I don't think I should have, because I have 2 classes. I'm pretty sure I guaranteed an A. It's just these other 2 classes I might not do so well, but it is what it is. Yeah. Also, I realize I haven't uploaded in kind of a while now, which is my bad. It's been very busy these last few days. Quite stressful, but I think at some point, I'm gonna come back and keep uploading, just because this is a good way for me to get my thoughts out, honestly. And I'm not gonna upload for the next few days because I'm going to be quite busy. I'm gonna be visiting home before coming back for an internship, which is gonna be exciting. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time whenever I do see you.